So we're going to show you how we can use AI visual checkpoints in Perfecto. So you can see here we've got an Android device opened. We've gone to a web page and we're looking at a graph. We want to create visual checkpoint rules for this page. Now this could be an application or web page, it doesn't matter. We're looking at the visual of the screen. We add the AI visual checkpoint to our test. And we can use the validation assistant to then try the different validation rules we want to test against the screen that's on the right hand side. So in the validation box, we type the validation that we want to check against that screen that we've got on the device we're working with. Now the first thing we want to say is, does the color of the graph match the stock performance? Now you can see the stock performance is trending down, and you can see the response is it passes. So it's passed this validation because the color is red, because the stock is trending down. When we click apply, we add that to our test. And whenever we run this test in the future, we'll run that same visual check against the screen we're looking at. Now we can add another visual checkpoint and we can do other things. So we might want to say, is the stock above a certain value? So is the current value of the stock over 180? Again, we try. We look at the screen, and as you can see here, the stock is 191. It passes because we said it should be above 180. And again, we can apply that to our test. Now, we can do the same thing and say, no, is the stock above 200? Now, obviously it's not. And in that case, the validation will fail. So we're going to say, is the stock over 200? We try that. And now you'll see that would fail. So if this test was to be rerun, and that was the case, that visual check would actually fail. So now let's look at how we can include this in our test. So here's a simple test where we're going to go to the Denver Airport website. We're going to do a visual checkpoint of a graphic on the screen to make sure the graphic matches the text. Now we're not looking at the structure of the screen, we're just looking at a visual of that screen. We're then going to look at the status colors and is the flight correct, the details. Now, we run that test now. So you can see here, we're navigating to the airport for the normal validation check. And we're now going to look at this object here to make sure the little graphic matches the text. So we have a little sun, it says fair. That's correct, and you see we had a green tick, and we moved on. We're now going to carry on the rest of the test. We're now looking at the flight details and we're checking, does the color of the status box match the status? And is the date correct for this test? And you see there, green ticks, everything worked. We've done that visual checkpoint and this test will pass. Now, let me show you how we can add another visual checkpoint to this existing test. So we drag on our visual checkpoint to the existing test. We use the validation assistant like we did before in the previous example. And again, we can now type in here whatever we want to validate against the screen that we've got on the device we're looking at. So we can say something like the arrival codes for the airport must match the description of the airport, so the airport name. We validate, we're validating that screen in real time, and it's correct. And if we're happy with this, we can click apply, add it to our test, and next time we run this test, we'll run that same validation against the screen at that point in time. So you can see this is very powerful. You don't have to understand the structure of the page. Basically, we're just looking at the screen and matching against no human readable text as to what we expect. We can also say things like, no, a gate must be assigned. You can see here, again, that passes because gates are assigned to the flights that we can see on the screen. Now, if we click on the view report, we can actually look at the test that ran before. So when we actually ran the test, that's what normally happens. You run these tests not interactively. And you can see we have a screenshot of the actual screen. And you can see here, it says, does the flight status color match? And it says, yes. This valid visual checkpoint passed because they match. Now, we can also run this same test on an iPhone device. So previously we used an Android device. We're going to run the same test, but this time it's just an iPhone. And you'll see exactly the same test runs, the same visual checkpoints are being used. The only difference is we're using an Apple device and not an Android device. So if you were to do this today without our AI visual checkpoint, You need to understand the location of the objects on the screen, write conditions and assertions. You'd also need to maintain that across versions and platforms. You no longer need to do that. You write your validation rule, and we use that as a visual check. Focus on the what, do not waste time on the how.